Hey, I'm Coach T, and I'm going to address a question that I see all over the place. If you know me and you've been tracking with me over the last year, you know that I started absolutely cold with coding and I knew nothing coming in other than some HTML in a course that I took almost 10 years before I came back to coding. I was super intimidated by it. I didn't think I was smart enough to be able to do the math or to be able to do the intricate logic. And what I discovered instead is something that I take tremendous joy in. I love sitting down to code, even when it's challenging. I get a lot out of puzzling through solutions or reading through technical explanations of how to get things done. And when it clicks, it's it's a feeling that I get in my professional work when I see a kid suddenly click with a skill and start to accelerate as a reader, or I see a teacher really get a process and then start to take off and become more independent. I get the same kind of like professional thrill out of watching code click, and it brings a little bit of heat to my step. So, with that said, I want to address the question of where do I start? How do I start learning to code? Couple precepts. First of all, any kind of big complicated project that you're going to embark on, whether it's for personal growth or it's something you need to do professionally, you need to build up a sustainable routine. 4 to 8 hours a day is not a sustainable routine at first. Your brain doesn't have the schematic network to support that kind of activity yet. Eventually, you might get there. But at first, you need to be looking at routine 20 to 30 minutes worth of practice and learning every single day, maybe a maximum of an hour. That's it. Anything more, you're going to overdo it. It's easy to go head over tail and go straight in, but you're going to burn out pretty quickly. You're going to get frustrated. Things aren't going to add up quickly enough. So just take some professional coaching advice here from me. Set a sustainable low goal that you can meet every single day with minimum resistance. Okay. Also, if you're somebody who tends to binge study, if somebody who tends to chunk your studying out, you might know the pain of you have a marathon day planned and then something inevitably comes up. Murphy knocks on the door and you're like, I guess I just can't practice this week, right? Well, that's no way to get in shape. It's no way to learn a musical instrument. It's no way to learn a language, and it's no way to learn to code. Sustainable, bite sized practices will allow you to have that kind of flexibility and resilience in your schedule. So that's the first thing. Before you dive into learning to code, map out your schedule. How much time can you budget up to maybe 30 minutes for the first couple weeks a day? That's it, right? If you're really enjoying it, maybe that becomes an hour. Because a lot of times what happens is you sit down for your 20 or 30 minutes and then you're like, I actually really want to keep going. And that's okay. But minimums, we're talking about minimums. Map out your minimums. Okay, so we've mapped out our minimums. We've decided we can do 20 to 30 minutes a day, every single day, 7 days a week, right? That's sustainable. And if I miss a day, I'm not going to beat myself up. It's okay. If I miss 2 days, it's okay. I'm going to be back to it after the weekend. That is okay. So the next step is, where am I going to learn from? Do not spend money at first. My channel, I do not ask for anything. I don't even really ask for subscribers or notifications or that stuff. I'm not interested in that. There are so many free coding resources for every single language that you want to learn available at your fingertips with an active internet subscription, active internet access, whatever, that it's ridiculous that somebody would dive in and start to pay money first. Go for a couple of weeks with a free resource. And I'm going to show one that I learned a lot from just to demonstrate my point. Okay. Then, after a month or 2 months, if you're feeling like you understand the really basic basics and you're enjoying the process, then consider putting a little bit of skin in the game. What that looks like to you could be a book, and I can make a couple recommendations about books for C# in particular, but also for Python and SQL. Or you could go to something like Coursera or Udemy. None of these are paying me, by the way. I don't have any sponsorships. You could go to the MIT MOOC courses, massive open online courses. I think they have a final payment when you complete the course to get your accreditation. Or you could look at any of a number of paid resources. The distinction that I want to draw between a paid resource and a free resource is that the paid resources, first of all, it ties you kind of to it. It makes you a little bit more responsible for the investment that you made. Many people feel more motivated when they have skin in the game. I am one of those people. If I pay for it, I will do it. If I buy the food and my toddler doesn't eat it, I will eat it, and then I'm going to have to work harder the next day at the gym. If you only ever stick to free resources too, then you may have a good experience, but you may also struggle with finding properly curated and updated materials. People make, and I'm one of them, most of us are, we make a resource and then we move on, right? I'm probably not going to go back to the Python classes video unless there's a massive error pointed out to me or they in some way fundamentally change classes in Python. But with a paid course, a lot of times the instructors have an onus to keep it updated. I like Udemy personally, and I'll show off some of the tools on Udemy because the courses that I've invested into routinely refresh what's going on. They update their slides, they update their lectures, they update their activities. Not all courses are, of course, created equal, and not all instructors are made equal, but generally I've had a good experience on Udemy, and it's cheap if you just wait for their sale every other weekend. So with that said, that's where you should start. Map out what you're doing. How often are you doing it? What's sustainable? That's the key, because you need to, in a lot of ways, change your brain to enable you to do a new skill. And then what is my resource roadmap going to look like? It should be free first. Dip your toes in. If you don't like it or you bounce off of a wall, then you can reassess it, but you haven't lost any money. And if you do enjoy it, then consider a low-cost, beginner-level resource to work through over the course of a couple months while you build in that sustainable habit. So with that said, that's how you should begin learning to code in 2025. There's no fast way to do this. If you know one language, you can quickly pick up another. But if you're coming in from the cold and you don't have the vocabulary, you don't have the general syntax, you don't understand objects and object-oriented programming, then you're going to have a hard time picking up a language quickly. Not that you can't, just that you kind of have to build a lot of different bases all at once. Versus if I want to go from Python to C#, well, I already understand what variables and methods and functions and classes and objects are. So when I have to apply those principles over to C# or to Java, which occasionally I have to do with one of the books that I'm working through, I can quickly translate those over. I'm not a master by any means. I'm somewhere in the intermediate phase of coding, maybe the low intermediate phase, but I've already seen that magic. If I have to read JavaScript, which I've never studied, I can read JavaScript because it's close enough to Python and C# that I have a very good idea of what's going on. Could I write it? Absolutely not, without looking up a whole bunch of stuff. But I can read it and I can get those concepts, even if they're concepts in a different language. So there's no fast way for the real beginner in coding to learn to code. We have to plan an accelerated ramp up, and that starts slow. It's the old carpenter's adage brought to life: go slow to go fast. Okay. With that said, let's take a look at a free resource, and then I'll show you Udemy very quickly, just because that's my personal preferred platform. Again, not sponsored, nothing like that. So if we take a look here, this is Microsoft Learn. If you want to learn C#, this is where I started, and it's totally free. When you go to Microsoft Learn and you click on the Discover tab, just look for training, and then we can browse all paths. This is new. I have no idea what this personalized learning plan with AI is. They've changed the site over the last couple months. But if you look at Browse All Training, I can look at .NET. And here's a module right away. It's 27 minutes, write your first C# code. And I can even scroll down and I can look for, I want beginner and I want a learning path, not a single module. Now I have this write your first code using C# is 4 hours and 37 minutes. It's a micro course. It goes through a bunch of different stuff. Check out what's in this. Writing your first C# code. Okay, we're looking at how it works, introduction, reviewing the solution, storing and retrieving data, performing basic string formatting, basic operations, and then there are 2 guided projects. If you want to learn how C# works, this is perfect. It gives you a curated, small, and most importantly, professionally updated learning path for you to learn from. If you're enjoying it after a couple of weeks. And there's like 30 or 40 hours worth of C sharp training here. I think I've worked through all but the last one, just because by that point I was out of there. But yeah, I've done, let's see, creating console applications. Yeah, I did this one. I don't think I did this one. Let's see. What's that? Debugging, exception handling. That would be TriBlocks, I think. Visual Studio debugging tools. I did that. Implement. Yeah, I don't think I did this entire course. I may have done part of it, but by the time that I got here, I had been mainlining C# for weeks, and I was very comfortable with all of this. Once you get through that, and you're like, okay, I really do enjoy this, or I don't enjoy this, or if you don't want to do C#, you could also go to freecodecamp.org, which, by the way, connects with Microsoft Learn. But Free Code Camp has Python and HTML and CSS. It's very easy to learn through. It's very gamified, so you can flow through a bunch of it really quickly. This is where I really learned CSS. Is here on Free Code Camp. HTML I was comfortable with, but CSS was confusing, especially Flexbox and block formatting. I had a hard time with those with the source that I had been using, which was a text-based source, and then we did a whole bunch of it on Free Code Camp, and I flew through it. Very comfortable. But those are 2 free resources for learning to code right there. That'll keep you busy for the rest of the year, just those. But then if you do decide you want to buy into it, you could go to something like Udemy, where I've got like the Ultimate C# Masterclass. I paid $15 for that years ago, and I'm still working my way through it. What I do is I work on it until I hit a point where I'm like, okay, I don't know how this connects to what I'm working on, and then I pause. That's like a 60-hour course for $15. I've got the essentials on Android for Python. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. I maybe have spent a little bit too much money on Udemy over the last couple of years, but you can see all of these are the courses that I got from Humble Bundles over time. Let's see. Do I have a coding category? Maybe I don't have my filters. My lists. There it is. Okay, so for coding, yeah, I've got my Python course. I did 14% of this one before I had moved on to a book that I felt was a better way for me to learn. Got that for $5. Got this for $5. The Ultimate SQL Beginner course, that one was the first coding course that I completed that I had paid for start to finish, by Colt Steele. I enjoyed it. I have some pedagogical issues with it, but I did learn a bunch from it. Blender courses, yeah. So this is where I tend to pay for courses. The other thing that I do is, I'm going to pause the recording real quick. The other thing that I do is I use texts. I just learn better from texts. So especially these being used in conjunction with some of the videos, I take notes, copious notes on what I'm reading, and I try to build things with them. So I have the C# Player's Guide. There's another one over there, Unity in Action. Practical SQL. Practical SQL is really fascinating because it's written by a journalist. So it's all about finding the data in your journey. It's something I want to work through again as I build more of my school tools over the course of the next couple of years, I think. And then the Python crash course, I read almost cover to cover up until I got to Pygame stuff towards the end, and I just didn't enjoy it. But this is written by a math teacher. So you've got those. I paid maybe $10 for each on eBay with free shipping. So again, I'm not spending a lot of money to become a programmer. I'm spending $10 here, $10 there to get a course that I can work through. It takes me a couple weeks, maybe a couple months to get through, and then I have those skills and I have access to them, in perpetuity basically. So that's how I'm learning to code in 2024, 2025, 2023, right? And I think that's the best course as somebody whose business is getting adults to learn how to do complicated new processes and things, is map out what it looks like, identify your resources, and then start slowly. It's pretty close to an intervention cycle that I might use at work, where we sit down, we identify what are the issues that the individual I'm working with is thinking that they want to adjust. We talk through those problems and figure out what should it look like, right? What's a sustainable ideal that we want to work towards? We evaluate the materials or the resources that we have, and then we go looking for others if we need to. And we come back in a couple of weeks after practicing on the identified strategies or procedures, map it out again. Is it sustainable? Are we seeing a change? What do we need to change? And you go around and around and around and around. That's an intervention coaching cycle. And you can coach yourself this way pretty effectively. You just have to be honest and reflective. So that's what I've got for learning, for teaching yourself how to code in 2025. It's not highfalutin, it's not high tech, and it's not fast, but it is effective. And with that said, I'm going to get out of here. I would encourage you to reach out to other programmers, join the subreddits that are dedicated to the language that you're on, so you can ask questions or search for questions that are similar to yours. And if you can, do a meetup. Most cities have local programmer meetups, and you can get into a community that way too. But I'm going to get out of here. I think I covered the bases. It's a lot of fun. It should not be intimidating. It's not math heavy like I expected that it would be. So if you're like me and you were intimidated by math, coding can be for you too. All right. That said, I'm Coach T. I will see you in the next one.